How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are finally going to be shooting primer in the engine bay on the Frankenstein Civic. So let's roll that intro and get into it. Now I've already got a bit of a head start on masking. I'm going to show you guys where I'm currently at and then what the plan is and how we're going to get this done. So let's just get into it. So here's where I'm at with masking right now. Haven't got a lot done yet, but I've definitely got a pretty good start. So basically what I'm doing is going along all the edges, sticky side facing in, and then when I use the masking paper I'm going to stick it to this and kind of drape it over the sides so that no overspray gets over here. So I've kind of gone along this whole edge here all the way to the bottom, and same on the passenger side all the way along and gone to the bottom. I've also covered some of the holes, so this is where the headlight harness will come through. Strut towers, this hole in the firewall is plugged. So basically I'm going to continue on along here, sticky side out. And then I got a bit of work under here as well. There's a lip under the frame rails that I'm going to be masking off. Then I got the subframe to deal with, heater core, fuel lines, this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of little stuff that has to be masked off yet too. But I'm just going to dig into this and see where we get tonight. Alright guys, as you can see, I've got most of the masking done. I got the windshield and passenger side and driver's side done. I've also got started working on the subframe. So I'm not going to take as much time on this because all the suspension is going to be redone someday. But I do still want to protect it a bit so that there's less to strip later on. So I've taped around all the edges. I've taped this off, I've taped off the fuel lines, so all that's really left to do is to cut a piece of paper to cover the rest of this and then just kind of trace the outline, tape it up. So I've also masked off the frame rails from the inside of the engine bay as well, just to help protect the suspension components. So it's masked from both sides, so I shouldn't risk getting any overspray on it. I've also gone over most of the bolt holes, all the big ones anyway. The ones up here I'm not too worried about. I'll probably end up running a tap and die through all that stuff anyway, just to clean up the threads. But I figured on the big bolt holes I would do my best to try and keep the paint and primer out of there. So I'm just going to get this subframe finished quickly and then we're going to start cleaning and then spraying. Alright guys, so I was up late last night, got all the masking done, so here's where we're at. So today is primer day. So I got the heat cranked in the garage. I want to get it up to about 15 to 20 degrees in here Celsius, just to make sure that everything's going to flow smoothly. But yeah, I got the subframe all masked off now. Not super pretty, but it'll get the job done. I also spent a bit of time cleaning up all the dust on the engine base, so I've wiped it down 2 times, and I ended up using this Varsol to clean the engine base. So this stuff works really good for picking up dirt and dust because it sticks to it very well, but it does leave a bit of a film behind. So I'm gonna have to go over it one more time with a degreaser. This stuff right here, normally I use this stuff as a pre-paint cleaner, so that's what I'm gonna do as my last step. I got some lint-free rags that I'm gonna be using, so we'll do one final clean right now and then it's basically time to start spraying. So I'm going to start by using some adhesion promoter, mainly because I wasn't able to sand every little bit of the engine bay. There were some areas that I just couldn't get the sandpaper into to scuff, so I want to make sure that it's going to adhere properly. So better to be safe than sorry, I'm going to use this adhesion promoter, and then after that I'm going to use a self-etching primer to cover all the bare metal spots. And once that's done, I'm going to use the Omni MP871 epoxy primer. So I got the primer, hardener, and reducer here. So I'm going to do 1 to 2 coats of that. I think it recommends 2 coats. So I'll probably do 2 coats of this stuff. And then I don't want to have to scuff this stuff again because it is very hard to sand. So I'm going to be using the Slick Sand High Build Primer. So I'm going to spray this stuff within the recoat window, and then that way I don't have to scuff this stuff. So it's going to make it a lot easier. This stuff is much easier to sand than the epoxy. So I'm going to lay this stuff on pretty thick. I'm told this stuff is basically like a sprayable glaze. So it's going to go on really thick, and then we can block everything out nice and smooth. So I also picked up some new filters for my respirator because these ones are completely filled with body fill dust and fiberglass dust, and I think these are even from when I was sandblasting. So these are long overdue to be replaced. So I'll get that swapped out right away. And I also hit up the local Walmart to get a new furnace filter for my fan. Their shelves were about as bare as a Miley Cyrus video, but I did end up finding this filter. It's a bit oversized, but I think it'll work. I'm also going to double up using one of these very cheap filters. It's the same as this one here, but as you can see, it will not stop anything. That's basically like throwing a hot dog down a hallway, but I think this will work. It'll be better than nothing anyway. Last time I sprayed, I had 0 ventilation in here, and the weather was very cold outside, so I could not open the doors or anything. So all the fumes and overspray just kind of hung in the garage for, I would say, 2 to 3 days. But today, the weather's actually going to be pretty nice out. It's going to be just above 0 degrees Celsius. So I think in between coats, I'm going to open the garage door, aim the fan outside, and then that way I'll be able to blow at least some of the overspray and fumes out the door. And then when I go to spray another coat, it'll be nice and clean in here. I'm also going to have the heat turned off because I don't want the heater to be cycling paint overspray through it. So I want to get it nice and warm in here before I start spraying. And then once it's up to temp in here, I'm going to turn it off. We'll get the spraying done, open the doors and air it out. Then we can pump up the heat again and then get ready for the next coat. So that's basically the plan. I think with everything set up now, we're about ready to get started. So I'm going to start by cleaning the engine bay, and then we're just going to start spraying. So let's get to it. Alright guys, engine bay is about as clean as it's gonna get. Replaced the filters on my respirator, so it's ready to go. Man, those old filters were filthy, so it was long overdue for a change. So we're pretty much ready to start spraying now. So I'm gonna spray the adhesion promoter, and then I need to recoat within 10 minutes. So basically, as soon as I'm finished the adhesion promoter, I'm gonna get going on the self-etching primer. And then self-etching primer has to dry 30 minutes before I recoat. So that's going to give me time to get all my epoxy primer stuff ready to go, get it mixed up and spray. So I'll probably catch back up with you guys once the epoxy primer is laid, because once I get started here, I can't really stop in between. And then at that point, then we can kind of cover where we're at. So we'll see you then. Alright guys, epoxy primer is officially done and it's been drying for a while, so let's have a look. Now overall I am very happy with the bodywork I did in here. It looks almost flawless behind this strut tower. This one also bodywork very good, but I ended up having a problem while spraying and I got a nasty drip right here. I actually ended up putting it on way too thick here, I think because I was trying to get behind this strut tower here and the primer just built up way too much in this area. But overall the bodywork looks really good, but it's just this really bad run that I got right here. So before it dried, I tried taking a piece of tape and putting it over it to lift some of the run off of there. So there's not as much primer there as there was before. So I'm currently just waiting for it to dry a little bit more so that I can start sanding on it. So basically I'm just gonna try to sand the run until it's flat again, and then we can spray the filler primer. I got a couple more runs also. I noticed one here, it's not as bad, but I'm gonna try sanding that one too. And then this one down here. Those were the only areas I could see where I had some runs, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. Luckily these runs can be saved. I'll just have to sand them flat. I do have a 72-hour window where I can still respray, so it's not that big a deal as long as I can get these sanded before that time. So right now I'm still waiting for this to dry. As soon as it's dry enough I can sand on it, I'm gonna get it flat, then we're gonna spray high build. So I'm pretty stoked about that. This is turning out pretty good. Overall I'm very happy with the way it looks, but just got to take care of those couple runs and then we'll be good to go again. Alright guys, I got some good news. I spent about a half hour or so sanding and I was able to get this run taken care of for the most part. I think the fill primer will take care of that one. This one here is basically smooth. I was able to block sand that one out, and then the big one down here, it doesn't look too pretty right now, but it is actually smooth. So I think I am about ready to start spraying high build primer. So I do still have a bit of time left today, so I think I am going to use that time to get the high build primer laid. So I'm gonna get going on getting this stuff mixed up, and then we're just gonna start spraying and hopefully I can get this done tonight. Alright guys, it has been a long road to get to this point, but high build primer is sprayed and dried. I could not be happier with the results. I know it's not perfect guys, but this is a lot better than I expected it was gonna be, because I am not a professional by any means. I was not expecting a result as good as this, so I could not be happier with how it looks behind the strut towers. All that fiberglass work that I did really paid off. It looks fantastic. So obviously you can see in the footage that there is a lot of orange peel in the primer. This stuff lays super thick and my gun was not loving it, so I had to spray it pretty slow and it ended up making a lot of orange peel, but we're still going to be block sanding this whole engine bay yet, so it's all going to get smoothed out and it's going to take care of the last of the imperfections. So again, I am just super stoked with how this turned out. It looks so good and I cannot wait to get this painted. Now the epoxy primer already had a bit of a sheen to it, so you can kind of see in the reflection where all the imperfections would have been, and honestly guys, it hides it all very well. Obviously I know where there's some imperfections, but if you didn't know they were there, I don't think you'd ever be able to tell. So anyway guys, I think I'm gonna end the video there. Huge progress made in this one. I could not be happier. I know I keep saying that, but I honestly don't know what else to say. I'm stoked about it. If you guys are stoked about it, give me a thumbs up. Drop me a comment below. Let me know what you think about it. I love to hear feedback from you guys, and all comments are appreciated. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely consider doing so. There's a lot more work coming on this car. There's a lot more work to be done. Engine's got to go in yet. We got to get this thing running. I want to drive it this year, so there's still a long road ahead, but this was a huge hurdle that I needed to get over. So yeah, next time we're going to be block sanding, and hopefully we can get some seam seal done, get all the imperfections taken care of, and then it'll be sealer primer. Once it's to that point, then we're ready for paint. So we're getting close, guys, so stay tuned, and we'll see you on the next one.